is the first interview of the Vietnam Veterans Oral History Project 2025 to commemorate the 50-year anniversary since the end of the Vietnam conflict. We're joined here today by James Ball, goes by the name of Jim, Staff Sergeant, United States Marine Corps, served from 1968 to 1973. Thank you for being here today.
My pleasure.
Okay, so to start off, we just want a little bit of background information about where you were born and where you were raised and your family.
I was actually born in Bronco County. My mother and dad were both from that area. My dad was actually from Bryson City. My mom was from Asheville. And we lived up there for, well, until I was in the second grade. And then we moved from, or actually third grade, and we moved from there to Newton. And I've been in Newton and Claremont ever since.
What were your parents like? What did they do for a living?
Well, my mom was she was kind of a mixed personality. She did lots of things, but her primary job, she was a tow seaman, and she was fantastic. She always made way over production, and she worked a lot of hours. My dad worked at well, he actually drove the mail truck for years, and then when we moved down here, he worked for Catawba County, which was a really dirty job for him, but he worked 12, 14 hours a day, so they were both very hard workers. Here for the industrial tech, I guess.
And were any of your family members part of the military?
Well, my Uncle Marvin, who lives in Asheville, he was in Vietnam. He was a CB, and so he was in clearing places for them to actually build the bases and the air strips and stuff. I was real proud of him.
What were your first thoughts about the war, and did they differ from any of your family or friends?
Well, I'm sure it differed from a lot of my friends, because a lot of them were, doing everything they could to get in college so that they might not be drafted. But as far as my family goes, naturally, they did not want me to go to Vietnam, but they didn't have any problem with me serving my country, and because that's a duty and an honor. So, no, my family was 100% behind me.
Okay, and now we're gonna talk about military service. And did you enlist or were you drafted?
I enlisted.
You enlisted? And oh, thank you. And when did you enlist, and what made you decide to enlist?
Well, two things actually. I enlisted first of all because I felt like, I needed to serve my country. I had a scholarship to Pembroke College, a full scholarship as a running track, but I felt the desire to serve my country, and so a friend of mine, he said, "Let's go in on the buddy plan." So we went down to the enlistment office, and we talked to the recruiter, and he said, well, you know, join the Marine Corps and you see all kinds of, said, you go everywhere, you'll see all kinds of things. And he was right. We did. So we went in on the buddy plan, and we signed up. I don't remember the exact month. That's been a long, long time ago, but it was about, we graduated in May. It was the last of the summer, and we enlisted, and he gave us an opportunity to take go in on the 27th of December, so we could spend Christmas at home. So that's when we went in, 27th.
And what were your thoughts on the draft dodgers and the protest?
Well, again, it's one of those things where a lot of people that, and I wouldn't really call them draft dodgers, like, you know, they were just trying to kind of protect themselves and be as safe as they possibly could. But and that never really varied, even, you know, even after I'd been in service for a while. You know, I didn't hold any animosity against people that felt like they didn't know the country anything. I mean, you know, freedom is not free. If everybody felt like that, then we'd be a communist nation.
What were your family and friends' reactions to you enlisting, and did you feel like it changed some of your relationships?
Actually, uh, I think for the most part, my entire family was very, very proud that I chose to enlist and serve the country, serve our country. And as I spent time, you know, in the service, uh, it even grew, since I was the only member of my family that did enlist. Um, but you know, again, uh, when you're talking about the possibility of having to go to a war zone, uh, you can't blame somebody for not wanting to do that.
So, you already touched on this a little bit, but what made you decide to join the Marines specifically?
Well, I've always been an athlete, and uh, you know, the Marine Corps motto is the few, but the few and the proud. And you know, that's kind of the way I felt. You know, I had a lot of friends that went, or not a lot. I had several friends that went in the Navy, and some joined the Army. But you know, I kind of felt like I wanted to be among the best. So I felt like the Marine Corps was the best of the best.
And what was leaving to go to training like? And where was your basic training?
Well, that was the first truth that the recruiter said. He said, we get to go to the beach. So they sent us to Paris Island. And Paris Island is surrounded by swamps and ocean. It was quite an experience. As a matter of fact, on the way down there, the bus driver stopped the bus at Buford, pulled off the side of the road, and he got up in front of all the recruits that were on the bus, and he said, "Gentlemen," he said, "this is your very last chance." He said, "You can get off this bus right now, because once we go across the bridge, there's only one way on and one way off." And nobody looked around or anything. Everybody kept their heads and eyes directly to the front, and not one soul got up to get off.
Okay. And what do you remember about your first day? How did you feel?
Uh, well, kind of anxious, I think, uh, when the bus stopped inside Paris Island. There was a drill instructor that was he was about 5 foot tall, and he stepped up on the bus and he said, "Gentlemen, you have 30 seconds to get off this bus and get on the yellow footprints. 15 of them have already gone." And so you can imagine about 60 guys all trying to get off the bus at one time so they can get on these footprints. And the footprints were just like you would stand if you were showing respect to the flag or to, you know, to a ceremony. And, you know, you had your head and eyes to the front, listening to every word that was said.
And how were the people around you? Did you make friends quickly?
Uh, friends, friends, yes. The friendships, you know, actually grew over a period of time, but more like acquaintances, because we all had a common goal, and uh, we were at that time uh, Uncle Sam's children, so uh, that's what we had in common, and we were all Marines. So. Well, actually, let me back up there. We were all recruits to be Marines, because you don't actually become a Marine until you graduate from Paris Island.
What was your daily routine in training, and was it difficult to adjust to?
For me, no, because again, you know, I trained and worked out as an athlete, so a lot of times I was up and doing physical stuff very very early, and usually until pretty late at night. But for a lot of guys, it was a change that they had to adapt to. A lot of them weren't used to physical exercise. A lot of them weren't used to running whatsoever. A lot of them were uh, not. Uh, a lot of them weren't actually ready to be where we were. But it's one of those things where it's a learning experience. Each and every day we learn something new. We had we went to bed fairly early, usually after we had what they call free time, and they made sure that you wrote home, that you told your parents, you know, that everything was going well, that you were okay, that you had no problems, um, and that was a necessity, because they did not want your family worrying about you. And then the drill instructor said, "But without a doubt, you know, for the next 12 weeks, you belong to me, and you will do everything that we tell you to do." And that's one of the things you learn about being a Marine, that you follow instructions. You do it without question, and you know you make sure you do it completely and thoroughly.
So you touched on that. What were your instructors like, and did you go into any special training?
Uh, well, the instructors were actually kind of like, they were kind of like your high school teachers or your college professors. They, it's not like they hugged you every day or anything like that, but they were there to teach you, and they were there to get you ready to possibly go to war. And so the strain and stress that was on them was tremendous, because it was up to them to weed out those that would put the rest of their squad or their platoon in harm's way.
What was the hardest and the easiest parts of training?
Well, there again, for me, I think the hardest part was drill instructors giving you the hard time that they gave you. However, that's part of your training. I mean, as far as the physical part of it, as far as the you know following orders, marching, running, carrying packs, I didn't have a problem with that. Again, people that weren't athletically inclined, a lot of them had some problems there. Those that were a little overweight, when they had to run 3 miles, that was hard on them. I mean, almost to the point of impossible. But by the end of the 12 weeks that they were there, they were running 3 miles and not, I won't say not breaking a sweat. We all broke a sweat, but they were running 3 miles very easily.
What was your favorite and least favorite part about training?
Well, naturally, track was track was my thing. So when we got up in the morning to do the 3 mile run, I was geared for that. And I think just the Marine Corps regiment, uh, the code, uh, the the strict discipline, uh, I adapted well to all of that. It suited me. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I considered even as early as uh, graduating boot camp was the possibility of becoming a drill instructor coming back to Paris Island.
What was your least favorite part?
I guess my least favorite part uh, was being away from home and family, because that was really the first time uh, that I had ever been away in that aspect, where I wasn't in control, where I could go back home. I knew I couldn't.
And what did you do in your downtime, and what did you look forward to doing in your downtime?
Uh, well, naturally, your time was full. I mean, you had to make sure that your weapon was clean. You had to make sure your boots were shined. You had to make sure your brass was shined. You had to make sure that your foot locker was organized and militarily uh, aligned. and then you had to make sure you wrote mom and told her that you loved her and everything was good. And that sounds like not much, but when you do it on a daily basis and you're restricted to an hour or an hour and 15 minutes or something like that, you got to cram a lot of stuff and into all those minutes.
How often did you exchange letters from loved ones back home?
Uh, well, we had what they call mail call, and we had that every night. So anytime we got letters, you know, they gave us our mail, and and we turned our letters in every night that we wrote. So they sent the letters that we wrote, back home. Or, it was on a regular basis. That you could read from your girlfriend or read from your mom, regular.
What parts of military life were easier to adapt to than others? And what was the easiest for you and what was possibly difficult for you?
Well, as far as the military regime, I adapted to it fairly well. Again, sometimes the hardest part was uh, when I was questioned or whatever, to give the right answer. Uh, you know, there was two answers. There was an answer of what you thought, what you actually thought, and the military answer. And if you slipped up and said what you thought, then you were going to do some physical training, or you're going to run, or you were going to be punished. They teach you discipline at very early. Like you can imagine being at the beach, and normally you think about being in a swimsuit or whatever, but imagine yourself being in full utilities, boots, hat, everything, and standing in formation in the hot sun, and sweat dripping down your face, and you can feel the trickle, and the urge to reach up and wipe it is almost is is just scary feeling. But and then there were the Paris Island sand fleas, and they would buzz around your nose and in your ears, and it made this sound. And again, the urge is that anytime you have something flying around your face, your urge is to do that. But you're in attention, so you're not supposed to flinch. Uh, and very early in boot camp, I not only flinched, but I slapped a sand flea, and the drill instructor he he went off. One of my sand fleas, you killed one of my Marine Corps sand fleas. Get over there and dig me a hole to bury it in. I did, and I buried it. And then he came up to me and he said, "Oh," said, "was that a male or female sand flea?" I don't know, sir. Dig that thing up and find out. Uh, you can imagine digging in the sand if you ever looked for shark's teeth or anything else, but you dig in the sand trying to look for a sand flea. I dug down about as deep as I had the hole dug, and I started looking for that sand flea. And then the drill instructor came over and said, "Never mind, Paul, we don't have time. Just fill the hole back up." So I learned a lesson, and that's what that was all about.
Okay, we'll
It's
cut that
okay.
part out.
But that was to teach you that, you know, no matter what, there's sometimes that you have to, you know, you have to withstand the little frustrations and things that would normally bother you. Because if you were on guard duty or if you were in a foxhole with somebody and you slapped a sand flea or you made a noise, that would give away your position. So, you know, that was part of that's what that was teaching. You have to have self-discipline.
Okay, and when did you find out that you were being shipped overseas, and how did it make you feel?
Well, again, anticipation is always there when you're in the military because you have guys that are constantly being given orders to go somewhere, whether it be a stateside duty or whether it be to a war zone. And you know that eventually, no matter where you're stationed, within a year usually, you're going to get orders to go someplace else. And uh, my biggest anticipation was where was it going to be? And when my orders came out that I was going to Southeast Asia, uh, it was one of those things where I've never seen it before, but I was going to, and so just like all the other guys that had gone before me, I got ready to go.
Were you allowed to tell your family beforehand, and what were their reactions, if so?
Well, again, your uh, family. The first thing the first thought in their mind is the worry. You're going to a war zone. You're going to, you're going into danger. So, naturally, they're going to be scared for you. So, but uh, you know, they do what most family members do. They say, please, 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 please be careful. Watch yourself and come back safe.
What day did you arrive overseas and where were you first stationed?
Uh, I don't remember the exact date. It was in it was right after the middle of it in 1971. I can't remember if it was June or July, but it's the hottest months of the year over there. And humidity level over there was 100%. I think it was unreal. You couldn't hardly breathe. But again, I was forewarned that we were going to be shipping out, so I was prepared mentally, but I didn't know what to expect. It was just one of those um, surprises that you get.
Where was your first station overseas?
Uh, Actually, my first station was Fatima, Okinawa. Uh, I was only there for a short time before our squadron uh, shipped to Marble Mountain. And you know, when the squadron goes, you know, everybody goes. And then when the squadron leaves, everybody leaves. And normally you're on a when you go in country, you're usually on a 13-month detachment. Fortunately for me, my detachment did not last that long. I was there 9, and I came back to Fatima for 2, and then my grandmother passed away, so the Red Cross brought me home early, so that, well, they didn't get me here early enough. I didn't get to attend the funeral, but I was there when she was buried.
What did you think about your first station in Okinawa, and what were your first thoughts upon entering Vietnam?
Well, in Okinawa, I met a lot of guys that I had met before, and you know, it was kind of like we all had jobs to do. I mean, you know, we had to be up at 3 in the morning to hit the flight line, because you had to have all your aircraft ready and everything to go out because of the heat. They flew early flights, and they would be back in usually by 7 or 8 o'clock. By the time you fueled the aircraft, you got everything battened down and everything. You know, it was 10 or 11, and then you were off the flight line, because 12 o'clock was a mandatory nobody out in the heat on the flight line.
Mm.
But it was different. It was like going to a different job. You kind of learn the ins, the outs, and you know where to go and what to do, and you find out what to do in your spare time. And you know, and a lot of times it's you know, when you first get there, you just kind of stay in your barracks and take care of writing home and telling everybody you're okay, and uh, making sure your barracks is spick and span. And when you finish that, you go to the mess hall, have a chow, and usually when you come back, you go to the eating club, have a beverage.
How did your first day overseas compare to your feelings of your first day in training?
Well, the anxiety of the first day in training was probably the biggest difference. I mean, uh, first day overseas was like, you know, I'm traveling to a new country. I'm going to meet new people. It's there was a bit of excitement there, just to see something you've never seen before.
Did you have a group of friends at your first station in Vietnam?
Yes, in fact, there was pretty much the guys that were in my squadron. I mean, we were all there together for a couple months before we went over. And you know, you had some guys that had been in the squadron longer. You had some that had, you know, you even had some that were been in there shorter time than you had. But and it's like any place. You know, there's some of the guys you like. Some of the guys were really knowledgeable. Some of the guys were just doing their time. I mean, it's kind of like any job you go to. You know, you find people that you want to associate with because they know and you can learn from them. And then you learn those that you don't want to associate with because uh, you already know more than they do. And it's it's that uh, it's that newness, you know, the, the getting to know your surroundings, getting used to being what you're there to be.
How long were you stationed in Vietnam?
9 months.
9 months.
Was it difficult to get contact back home?
Not necessarily for me. Again, uh, you know, I adapted well. You know, you, you naturally you see things that you've never seen before. Uh, some things that you know upset you emotionally. Some things that uh, well, I guess in essence, it's kind of like anything that really uh, tears at your heart. You know, if you're in a if you're a police officer or if you're a fireman or if you're anything like that, you know, you see things that just just make an imprint on your mind.
Mhm.
Uh, and as far as it bothering you, you know, it's how you adapt to it. It's how you handle it and secure it and lock it away. Uh, that's where PTSD comes in, is because some guys couldn't secure it. They they let it come back and home. And you know, I was told before we went over there that you know you're going to witness things, you're going to participate in things, and you're going to facilitate things that you may not necessarily agree with, but they have to be done. They have to be done for the good of the survival of the group, or protect your protect your brother on your left, your brother on the right, and you know you need to be prepared to do that.
Are there any memories or stories from your time in Vietnam you would like to share with us?
Well, again, you know, once we got over there, we were a pretty tight knit group, and you know we horseplayed when we had free time. We wrestled around. We did things that you know uh, young men do. Uh, but the biggest thing is that you know you're regimented over there. You had you had a responsibility to make sure certain things were done. Uh, you made sure your aircraft was flight worthy. You made sure that all things were fixed, repaired. The things I guess that bothered me most is when we did um, when we picked up the wounded, and you fly in an area where these guys have been fighting for days, and they're trying to get out the most seriously wounded first, and you go in to pick them up, and they get them in the chopper, and these guys are in pain. They've been given all the medication that the medics can give them, and that's sometimes that's just not enough. But if I had one recurring, I won't call it a nightmare, but if I had one recurring thought, it is their voices, their screams, and the fact that, in so many instances, there was absolutely not one single thing that I could do for them that the medics didn't already have bandaged up. The only thing that we could do for them is get them back to base and into the hospital as quickly as we possibly could.
Where were all the places that you were stationed in Vietnam, if not remain at the same station the whole time?
Well, the only two places that I was in Vietnam was Marble Mountain and Da Nang Air Force Base, because we flew from Marble Mountain to Da Nang to pick up parts to drop off people, and and when we had 24-hour leave or whatever, we'd go into Da Nang, and from Da Nang we'd go to Saigon, and bar hop or whatever we shop, and you had an opportunity to meet the Vietnamese people, but I never learned to speak Vietnamese, so the ones that spoke a little English, that's the only ones we could deal with.
So that kind of goes into the what did you do off duty?
That's pretty much it, and when you're in a war zone, it's kind of like always being on alert. I mean, you may be off duty, but you're listening for a whistle of a rocket coming in. You're listening for a siren to go off. You kind of sit on pins and needles, and just kind of on the edge of your bunk, because you never know when you need to be hitting a bunker or a foxhole or getting to safety somewhere.
What was your entertainment in camp? Did you ever get to go to one of the shows that the rock stars or whomever would go to Vietnam and put on for the?
I saw Bob Hope once, and one of the times he had the contestants from the Miss America contest, and you can imagine that hoo-ha all through. And the second time he was over there, he had Tina Turner there, and I happened to be one of the MPs that was on guard to keep the guys from flooding the stage. And so I was up close and personal when she was doing her show, and she was fantastic. I'd never seen anybody put that much energy into doing what they do, because she was flamboyant.
That's so cool. Were there any places off camp that you were allowed to go?
Well, we could go to the village, but I didn't. It's kind of one of those things where, in most third world countries, if you go see the people, I mean, your heart goes out to them, and I mean, when we think we have nothing, and then I look at what these people were doing, uh, I mean, I felt for each and every one of them. And for the most part, the village people were just friendly. I mean, they on show. They because they were small stature and mama sons they always wanted to feed you. I mean, you might be aware of what you're eating, but I mean, because uh, they ate some pretty rare stuff, but they were willing to share whatever they had with and from that aspect of it, they were people caught in between. I mean, they didn't care for this war. They didn't want it. They were just trying to do the same thing that most of us were trying to do, just keep from getting shot. And uh, unfortunately, they didn't have the same protection that we had. We had barbed wire, we had bunkers, we had hooches, we had weapons to return fire. And for the most part, these folks, all they could do was run and hide.
Just being asked if you ever went on leave.
Did you ever went on leave?
Uh, I went on leave once while I was over there, and I went to Taiwan. And again, when I got to Taiwan, those people they see an American, and they immediately think of money, 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 and they try to sell you junk, uh, drugs, about clothes, anything they think you'll buy. And I didn't I didn't really like Taiwan. That's why I only went once. Of course, you know, uh, we were in the beginning phases of the pullout. Because in '72 they started pulling people out of Vietnam, and so it was one of those things where it depending on your MOS, military occupational signature or whatever, uh, you know, depending on how bad you're needed was how you determined whether you had leave or whether you could be away from your job or whatever.
What did it feel like coming back from leave?
Well, actually, it felt pretty good to me because you know, uh, I didn't, I didn't like people hanging on me, wanting me to buy something. And and again, I felt it would be different if they could teach you before you go into a foreign country anywhere. If they could teach you enough of the language so that you could at least communicate, because the people that could speak any kind of even broken English, the thing they wanted to do is they wanted again. Uh, they looked at you as, you know, they think all Americans are wealthy. They think all servicemen they have money. They have you know lots of money to spend, and a lot of soldiers did. They saved their money up to go on leave, and I personally, I figured we worked too hard for it to waste it.
What was your rotation home like?
Well, four Marines came back with me, four guys that I had spent most of my tour over there with. And we came through LA International, and uh, there were some guys, well, some people, I think they refer to them as skinheads. And as we came down through the corridor, they started screaming, baby killers, baby killers, baby killers. And when we got close enough to them, they started spitting at us and everything. And I was, uh, I took offense to that. And uh, the guys stopped me because they said, Jim said, come on, just let it go, let it go. You know, we don't want to spend the night in jail here. Let's just get out of here. So we went on through, and it took me a long time to rationalize that. And then one day it came to me, and in all actuality, the whole one of the whole reasons that we were in Vietnam was fighting for their right to do that, to have the freedom to scream stuff and spit at people and stuff like that. You know, was it right? Is it right in any form? No, it's not. But, you know, in this country, that's the freedom they have. And were they willing to, you know, fight for that freedom? Were they willing to go to war for it? They didn't need to. They had people like that.
Yeah. What kept you going when you were in Vietnam? What kept you going when you were overseas?
Well, I think the people, uh, the other guys that I was there with, uh, and the fact that, you know, if we knew if we made it that we would come back home. Um, but you know, I knew after I'd been there a short time that it was all in the hands of God, and that's who I gave it to. I said, whatever's your will, you know, so it be done, and you keep me safe. I'll serve you in any way that I can, and one of the things that we did, I was very fortunate in the hoops that I was in because the guys, we had four guys in there, and all four of them were good Southern Baptists. So uh, we had some pretty good prayer meetings. We had some, but we were all very fortunate in the fact that uh, I was a crew chief, door gunner, and most of them were either you know, mechanics or the same as I, crew chief and door gunner. And you know, it was it was a 50-50 thing. You know, when you left the ground, that you knew that you were going to be shot at. You hoped it wasn't with a rocket launcher or anything like that, but you knew that you were going to catch ground fire, and you know, you just prayed that nothing made contact.
Did you have any photos or mementos from loved ones back home that you kept with you?
Uh, yeah, I had two that I kept very, very close. That was my wife and my son. And it was one of those things where, you know, you look at them at night and go to sleep, and you get about a 3 or 4 hour visit back home because your memories and your thoughts take you there. Some guys have, you know, some guys have girlfriends. Some guys like me had a family, and it's, you know, it's hard to put it into words, but it just it kind of like giving you a little R&R because you think about it, you think of the picture, you think about everything that you remember about them, and then it just, you know, takes you to a different place.
When and where were you when you learned that you were going home for good?
Actually, I was in Fatima, Oklahoma, and the I got had a visit by an officer, and he said that, you know, the Red Cross had been trying to locate me, that, you know, my grandmother had passed away, and that they were going to send me back stateside. And uh, I asked him then, I said, you know, you know, is it temporary or permanent? He said, well, I'm not sure at this point. And he said, you need to go over this too. And so I went over there, and they said, with you being this close to uh, rotating back anyway, uh, we're just gonna cut your orders to stay at home. We're gonna send you to Camp Pendleton, California. And I said, no, that doesn't make any sense. I said, because I said, if you send me to Camp Pendleton, that means you're going to have to move all my furniture from North Carolina all the way to California. And then we'd move everything back to North Carolina. Well, and so I rode home, and Granny and Kay wrote to Senator Helms, and Senator Helms contacted the people there and said, send up what North Carolina. They sent her in North Carolina.
What was your reaction to learning that America was pulling out of the war? Oh, sorry. What was your reaction to learning that America was pulling out of the war?
To be honest, not surprised, uh, because when we were over there, we, for all the lives that we lost, we weren't trying to win the war. It was, well, that was a topic of discussion at most meetings that we had, is that, you know, we would lose people after people after people, and then they call ceasefire and let the Viet Cong overtake place that we just lost all those people to take. And we couldn't justify that. We couldn't get that in our heads that, you know, this was smart, this was the thing to do, or whatever. Because, you know, it just wasn't right. And then when they, you know, they said, well, we're going to train the South Vietnamese. The South Vietnamese didn't want to be trained. They didn't have a problem fighting behind the Americans, but they did not want to be in the front line. They did not want to protect their country. Now, just like in America, and that's not all of them. There were some that were monsters. They were fighters. The Montagnard Vietnamese from the mountains of Vietnam. They were awesome, but it just, I mean, the handwriting was on the wall that if we turned it over to the South Vietnamese, what was going to happen? I mean, they would quit. You know, they wouldn't stay in war with the North Vietnamese, and so it didn't surprise me when, you know, when it turned out the way it did.
What was your last night in Vietnam like? Like, what were you feeling, and what was the feeling around your camp?
Kind of like getting everything you want for Christmas. I mean, everything that you can imagine. You're going somewhere that you don't have to worry about being shot. You don't have to worry about going on another mission. You don't have to worry about seeing friends killed. You don't have to worry about. I mean, you will that all up, and it is like getting everything that you ever imagined for Christmas. And then when they cut your orders and you know you got your bags packed and you're ready to get on that plane to go. Now, where they really pull you trigger is when they tell you they got your orders cut to go, and then they come back and say, well, cancel your orders. We'll be here, we'll be here another month. Or you're going to be here another 6 months or something like that. Then you have all that anticipation and all that excitement and everything. You got to just throw it back in and just hide it so that you'll have it when the time comes that you do get together.
What day did you return home? And who greeted you, and how were you greeted?
I want to say it was March 27th because that's when I landed. And I'm pretty sure my wife didn't. And her mama brought her. And we had to drive back home and then go to my grandmother's funeral. And so it was it was a happy, solemn moment.
What were your feelings about being home?
Elation, happy, just, you know, ecstatic to think that, you know, and proud, you know, that to see what, you know, when you've been to a country that is torn apart, and then you come back home and you see, you know, you see home, you see cow pastures, you see barns, you see, you know, people just scurrying around like you remembered it.
Okay, and now we're gonna do some questions about being home and the war. Like, what was it after the war? Um, After you got settled. Oh, how long did it take you to get settled back at home?
Well, when you're in country, you can imagine hearing the wings of a fly or hearing the buzz of a mosquito, and that waking you from a deep sleep. It took months. When after I got home, a breeze would blow through the window and ruffle my curtains, and I was on alert. My son would he was wondering who was the stranger in the bed with his mom, and he would get up out of his crib at night and, and stand and just be right in my face. And I woke up so many nights with, like I said, a breeze come through or whatever, and I'd wake up ready to fight my way out of it, and and his little face was right there. So I started sleeping from front of the bed to the back of the bed next to the wall, so that I wouldn't ever make a mistake and hit him without realizing.
How were you treated at home by your friends and family?
Well, fortunately, I think, you know, my family welcomed me home. They were they were glad that I came back all in one piece. I was very, very blessed. Um, my friends, it's kind of like, well, you know, you've been away. Glad you're back. You know, it it didn't, except for the ones that had experienced it. The ones that had experienced it, they knew what it was like over there. But for the ones that were here, that all they saw was what was on television and what they were told. Uh, you know, they didn't know what to say to you. They didn't know other than to say, hey, you know, welcome home. We're glad you're back.
How were you treated by the public, the people you didn't know?
For the most part, I wasn't in an area where we had a lot of animosity toward the military or toward the government. So that that didn't that didn't be a problem. That wasn't a problem at all. Because you know, most of the people here were just working people, and you know, like I said, you know, it wasn't like I was in a war zone. It was like I'd gone to a trip to the beach or gone to another state and just come back.
What was your outlook on the future?
Well, it had to be bright. I look forward to building a life for my family, myself. Uh, I have, I have a lot of people, mostly family that, you know, was happy to try to help me find good jobs, and they encouraged me to continue my education and get a degree so that I could get better jobs. So I had a lot of I had a lot of support.
Was it hard to adjust back to civilian life? And what were your hardest adjustments and your easiest adjustments?
Well, I really enjoyed the Marine Corps. Uh, I like I like the discipline. I like the structure, and I really thought about reenlisting and making the Marine Corps a career, but that didn't uh, that didn't work for uh, my family. Uh, they encouraged me, not to even think about that. That I could do more here. Uh, but hindsight being 2020, uh, I think I would have been happy in the Marine Corps, but I've been equally as happy here. So I'm where God meant for me to be. Uh, uh, he's brought people into my life and taken people out of my life, and he's helped me to meet a ton of really good people. So obviously, you know, he wanted me to do what I'm doing, or he wouldn't have done that.
Did you get to utilize your GI Bill?
I did. Uh, I got an associate's degree in industrial management. I got a bachelor's degree uh, uh, in the Bachelor of Arts. Uh, and I did that going to school at night. So
Was there anything that you did that made civilian life easier?
I don't think it's anything that I did. Uh, I was just myself. Uh, I was very blessed. I had a lot of friends and family support. I was fortunate enough that the things that I saw, the places that I'd been, you know, didn't find the spot in my heart or my memory that would stay there. So I was able to overcome all of that.
Were you able to keep in contact with the members you served with?
A lot of them, for quite a especially the first couple of years after I got out. But then, just like me, they all started their own lives and their families and so on and so forth, and just a busy life. Occasionally we see one another, and if you've ever been to Walmart, you see two men with hats on that say Marines or whatever, and Marine is a brotherhood. Marines are a brotherhood, and you're always in the family. You're always a Marine. But you'll see them, especially if they were in country. Uh, it's about a 5-minute review to just talk about, hey, how's things? How are you? How's family? Man, it was bad over there. I did this and I did that. But then after they do a walk through the past, they go about their shopping, and life as we know it.
You touched on this a little bit earlier, but how did your opinion about the protesters and draft dodgers change over time, and your opinion about the war? How did that change over time?
Well, my opinion of the war, like I said, it came from fighting for something that America is all about, which is freedom, the liberty for the people. It changed to being a little more sour because, again, it was not a war; it was a conflict, and the conflict was that the politicians were trying to get as much as they could possibly get out of what we were doing there, and it cost us 58,000 lives, and that's too much to pay for anything that they could get economically, monetarily, or anything else.
How did service change you?
Well, I like to think it changed me for the better. It gave me more self-discipline than I had before I went in. It gave me an opportunity to know what it's like to be a leader. Uh, it helped me to adapt and overcome situations that I may not have created, but I was able to make a change and make something better out of it. So if I had it to do over again and was physically able to do the training and stuff, there's not a doubt in my mind I'd re-enlist again. I talk when I talk to young men, especially in high school, and they have no idea what they want to do with their lives when they get out, rather than letting them come out of high school, or even if they don't make it in college and they come out and they're looking for what they want to do, I recommend the service, because it's an opportunity to gain some structure in your life, to give you some points of view to with what to do with your life. Not to mention it teaches men to make their beds. It teaches them to learn how to wash their clothes. It teaches them to make decisions and stick by them. It does. It almost sounds like a Boy Scout commercial, but it is an opportunity to do something with your life that you can only do by being in service.
How has your experience changed your outlook on life?
In most aspects, uh, it's given me a very bright outlook, and it's helped me to accept people. I still have a real problem with people that think that, you know, this country is taking advantage of them, or that this country is not the best country that there is in the world. Uh, because they have the freedom to think that in this country. You can ship them to just about any other country in the world, and they say the same things that they say here, and they would be, if not exiled from that country, or in prison, just simply because this country is so liberal that we allow, you know, we give them that freedom. And that's exactly what all the service people fight for, to keep that freedom available for us here in this
Is there anything that you would have done differently?
country. The biggest thing that I would have done differently would be possibly stay in the Marine Corps. I see so many options there, but again, that's not what God meant for me to do. So, but it's I have I have no regrets. Uh, I just, I look toward the future and see what, you know, I see the young men now in the Marine Corps. I see how physically fit they are, and I see how knowledgeable they are, and what good leaders they are, and decision makers. And I think, well, I would have liked to have been one of the drill instructors that helped bring that young man from maybe not so sure of himself to this point where, you know, he may be a senator or a congressman or whatever someday.
What advice did you wish you were given when you enlisted? And what advice would you give to people thinking about enlisting today?
Well, looking back, probably I would say maybe I wish somebody would, trying to talk me out of it. So I was more sure that's exactly what I wanted to do. Not because I was rebellious, not because I was uh, trying to get away from anything or whatever. But uh, yes, I was strong. As a matter of fact, we had a conversation just a while back about about the draft. And I think that every young man should have the opportunity to start a session and to be a part of providing the freedom. So,
Has your opinions about military and the war in general changed over time?
yep, yep, yep. I don't know that they've changed drastically. I think uh, there's more pride now than anything that I've ever had because, like I said, the Marine Corps is a brother. Uh, uh, yep, yep. Righteous service. If you talk to them, they say when they ask you if you were a Marine, they say it with somewhat of an admiration or somewhat of thanks. Uh, uh, if anything, being in the military has made me a veteran. It's made me a better person. And, I would like to think that it's made me a better husband. It's made me a better father, grandfather, and everything down the line. Just simply because that was a step in my life that needed to be taken.
Is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to add, or anything else you wanted to share with us?
Nothing other than, there's no good wars. There's, from the history of war, there's nothing in good war because lives are lost, lives are sacrificed, and sometimes it's over a simple, I feel, but I think that when you read the Bible, it said they'll be wars and ruin. So our future is going to be full of that type of thing. And the only thing that we can do to make us more ready, to make sure that we have the very best support from our servicemen and women that we can have.
What do you hope people will remember from your story, and what do you hope they will learn?
Well, I hope they see that, there's two sides to every war story. People that saw a lot worse than I did. I know that. There's people that did a lot worse than I did, and I know that. But again, I know that that's war, and people have to do what they have to do. Circumstances that they're in, and sometimes it's only a centimeter of a second that you have to make that decision. And I just hope and pray that we prepare each and every service person that we have to be able to make that decision and not hesitate, because the hesitation is what causes their death or the death of maybe their team member or whoever. It's the preparedness of it. That I hope people realize that service it's an opportunity. Just in it the same way as anything that you can do to help serve and protect your fellow man. I hope that whoever sees this, whoever hears it, will think like, if they were service people, did I make a difference? If they're not service people, they're thinking about, what to do with their lives. Service would be an opportunity for me.
Is there anything that we should have talked about but didn't cover?
Well, I appreciate y'all delving into the fact that, there are atrocities in war, and some of them are man-made, and some of them are just totally knee-jerk reaction. And I hope that in both instances that people work well on that aspect that, what happened here, because that person was they were in a totally different frame of mind, they were totally different realm, and you have to be there to be able to judge on or to be able to make a decision about.
What do you wish more people knew about veterans?
About what?
About a veteran.
What do you wish more people knew about veterans?
Veterans. Well,
I guess it's like anything else, before you to know a veteran is to walk a mile in his shoes, to do some of the things that he's done, or to, again, to let your mind go where his mind go. And then, I sometimes feel, I feel sorrier for the veterans that we have that are homeless right now than anyone else, because they gave their all. And then what did they get in return? Now, are there programs for them? Absolutely. Are they wise enough to take it? Debatable. But, they earn something. And, when I have the opportunity to help one, I feel like they're dead. Because, except by the grace of God, they're the what?
Well, thank you for joining us today, Jim. This concludes our first interview for the Vietnam Veterans Oral History Project of 2025.